So, Nima, let me ask you, do you agree or disagree with my thought process that they're going to try to bring as many objective things like these text messages, and I would assume this one is going towards motive, while prosecutors don't have to prove motive. I can tell you, having tried a lot of homicide prosecutors, you certainly love having it.
Of course, Bob, you don't want to rely on cooperator testimony alone, especially in a case like this where prosecutors don't really know who pulled the trigger. That's why they charge the conspiracy here. So you have family members testifying against one another, and obviously the defense is that this wasn't a family affair. And the defendants who pled guilty, those are the ones who are actually guilty, and they're trying to throw their other family members under the bus. So you really want this corroborating evidence, these types of text messages. Obviously, witnesses can lie, but text messages generally don't lie. And to the extent that you can show that motive, right? We know obviously this was a domestic dispute and spilled over to this multiple murder. At least that's the prosecution's theory of the case. To the extent that you can tell that story to a jury, that's really important, because there's no question that the Wagners weren't involved in these murders. Just a question of, was it all of them? Did they plot and plan over weeks and months like the state of Ohio is telling the jury? Or was it just a couple family members that decided to do this on their own? That's the big question in this case, Bob.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really important legal point that is very practical in the courtroom. And having where you have multiple people that could have been involved in the shooting, and you got people pointing the finger sometimes that, no, I didn't shoot, that's the person who shot. Talk to us and drill down a little bit more about how important and why prosecutors rely on that conspiracy charge, what it means in terms of the practical reality at the end of the case.
Bob, conspiracy charges, I mean, I love them. They're so important, right? So conspiracy is an agreement to do something unlawful, and you need an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. So the great thing about conspiracy is that everyone who's involved in the conspiracy, they're on the hook. So even if they don't pull the trigger, they're substantively liable for all acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. And this is well established in case law. So there's an agreement to do something unlawful, and you know, whether it's George or Billy or Edward or Angela, they just do something in furtherance of that conspiracy, right? You know, drive the vehicle there, buy one of the weapons, you know, whatever it is, as long as they do that overt act, they're on the hook for everything. So prosecutors don't need to actually prove who's the one who actually pulled the trigger, because frankly, they don't know.
Right. If either one of them's in for a penny, they're in for a pound. Can you imagine back in the days before they had conspiracy and RICO laws, those who were ordering all this carnage oftentimes escaped responsibility because there was no direct proof of involvement, even though they were the ones orchestrating